As I lifted the heavy barbell, sweat dripping down my face, little did I know that my ordinary gym routine was about to take a dark turn. When Karen, with her accusatory gaze, mistook my protein powder for something sinister, I never imagined it would escalate to a call to the DEA. Here's how it all went down. The scent of sweat and determination filled the gym, making me feel energized. I sat down on the bench, sipping on my water bottle, enjoying the simple pleasure of a good workout. As I looked around, I felt grateful for the gym. It was my special place where I could push myself and be in the zone. The bright gym lights cast a warm glow on the equipment. It was moments like these that made me appreciate the focus and dedication of my workouts. But as they say, every gym has its characters. And in ours, it was Karen. She was my gym mate, and we often found ourselves working out next to each other. In many ways, we couldn't have been more different. I was a laid-back guy in my 30s, just trying to stay fit and keep things straightforward. Karen, on the other hand, was in her 40s, and always seemed to be in the middle of some drama. She loved to chat, and often had a lot to say about what others, including me, were doing in the gym. Over the years, I've tried to be friendly, nodding hello or making small talk when we ran into each other at the gym. But most times, our chats turned into her sharing her thoughts about my life. Whether it was the music I played, the friends I worked out with, or even the plants on my windowsill, Karen always had something to comment on. Still, I tried to brush it off, reminding myself that everyone sees things differently. As the early morning sun came through the blinds, filling the gym with soft golden light, I was deep into my workout. I could feel my muscles working hard with each repetition. The steady thuds of weights, the sounds of people breathing, and the thumping beats from my stereo all mixed together in the background of our workout session. But as I bent down, preparing for a deadlift, an unexpected voice pierced the air. "What exactly are you up to in here?" Karen's voice carried a tone of mock curiosity, but her eyes, sharp and calculating, spoke of a different intent. Catching my breath, I straightened up, holding the barbell. "Karen, I'm working out, just like any other morning." "Why?" She stepped into the room, her gaze never leaving me. "This place, it smells different," she said, a hint of accusation creeping into her voice. She leaned in closer, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air. Not just the scent of sweat and exertion. My eyes widened as I realized what she was getting at. She turned her attention to the corner table where my protein powder sat. "That? It's a protein powder for recovery." She tilted her head slightly, a sly smirk forming on her lips. "Or is it something more illicit?" Karen leaned even closer, her curiosity getting the best of her, and took a cautious sniff of the protein powder, her face scrunching up in confusion. Laughing at the absurdity, I shot back, "You think I'm hiding something in my protein powder? You've been watching too many crime shows, Karen." Stepping forward, I held the container of protein powder tightly, my knuckles turning white. "Stash?" I said with disbelief, my voice filled with incredulity. "And you think I'm involved in something illegal?" I thrust the container towards her, unscrewing the lid with a flourish. "Look!" I demanded with a hint of frustration. "This, right here, is what fuels my workouts, my recovery. Not drugs, not any illegal substances, just plain old protein powder." But Karen remained unconvinced, her suspicion unwavering. "I don't believe you. Of course you're going to deny it. I'm calling the DEA right now." With a swift motion, she dialed the DEA's number, her fingers tapping away at her phone screen. I could hear the familiar tone of the call connecting. "Hello," she said, her voice now sounding more official. "Yes, this is Karen. I'd like to report a suspicious substance." As we stood there, the atmosphere grew heavy with tension and regret. An hour passed, and the only sound that broke the silence was the distant wail of sirens drawing closer. The DEA had arrived. Karen looked even more anxious as the agents entered the gym. She quickly explained the situation, and they listened attentively. After a brief examination of the protein container and a few questions, the agents confirmed that it was indeed just a harmless protein powder. As the DEA agents left, Karen turned to me, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, John. I should have never jumped to conclusions like that." I sighed, the tension in the room finally dissipating. "It's okay, Karen. Just remember, appearances can be deceiving. It's essential to seek understanding before making accusations." We both learned a valuable lesson that day, and hopefully it would prevent any future misunderstanding. Wow, Karen really needs to chill. Jumping to conclusions like that over protein powder? It's a good reminder to think before you accuse someone. I never expected that a simple request to move in together would unravel the true intentions of my boyfriend. Little did I know, his desire wasn't fueled by love, but by the hope of finding a financial savior. The path that unfolded from that moment led to a shocking revelation and a decision that would change everything. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 30-year-old woman, and I've been seeing my boyfriend, who's 32, for about 5 months now. I just bought my second home back in February with the money I made from selling my first one. My job pays me around $80K and my monthly mortgage is $1,500. My boyfriend's situation is a bit different. He rents a room from his friend who owns a townhouse. This friend is hardly ever home, maybe just 1 week out of the month because of work travels. My boyfriend pays $800 a month, which includes all the utilities. It's a nice place and he makes a decent income, probably around 60-70K. So, here's where it gets intense. His friend dropped the bomb that he's thinking of selling the townhouse to move in with his girlfriend. One night, my boyfriend hit me with this bombshell, saying he should move in with me. I said, "Wow, that's surprising. We've only been together for 5 months, and I think that's a big step. Can we talk about it? I need some time to think." He seemed a bit annoyed but agreed. "All right, let's discuss it later." Then the next day, I got a text from him that completely blindsided me. He said his friend was planning to list the townhouse in October, and my boyfriend had to find a new place by the end of October. He didn't have a lease or any solid plan, so he messaged me saying he needed to crash at my place short term since finding an apartment in that time frame was nearly impossible. I replied, "Sure, we can chat about it later tonight." When he came over that night, he was relentless in pushing the idea. He said, "Look, I really can't afford an apartment. It's just too expensive, and I thought we could make it work if I moved in. It would ease both our financial burdens." I firmly replied, "I understand your situation, but we haven't been together for that long. Moving in is a big step." He got upset and responded, "Well, I thought we had something special. Why can't you see that?" I firmly stated, "I'm just not comfortable with it. We haven't been together long enough for such a big move." That's when things got heated. He got upset and said, "You're being heartless." Then in frustration, he stormed out of the room. A few days later, he sent me a text, offering an apology and requesting a few more days for me to mull things over. Feeling the need to confide in someone, I shared the entire situation with my friend and coworker. To my surprise, he dropped a bomb on me, calling me an asshole for not allowing my boyfriend to move in. I was taken aback by his blunt judgment, but he didn't stop there. He continued, arguing that in this tough economic climate, it's practically impossible for people to afford living alone, and that 5 months into a relationship is more than enough time to take the plunge and move in together. I found myself lost for words and chose to stay silent. So, I'm left wondering, am I the jerk for refusing to let my boyfriend move in with me? The next day has been a whirlwind. First, my coworker surprised me this morning. As I walked in, there was coffee and a sandwich waiting on my desk. He admitted he was an idiot and apologized. We've worked together for over a year, and this was our first major disagreement. He went home and had a talk with his girlfriend, who set him straight. She told him my boyfriend is an adult who needs to act like one. We chatted briefly this morning, but work kept us busy for the rest of the day. Now, on to my boyfriend. He texted me the next morning and asked if we could chat during lunch. I agreed, so I stepped out to take his call. I started the conversation, firmly telling him that he can't move in with me. I explained that our relationship isn't at the point where I'm comfortable with that idea. However, I assured him that I'd assist him in finding an apartment, help with packing and moving, and provide support in any other way he needs. For a moment, there was silence on his end. Then he dropped a bombshell that left me puzzled. "I can't afford an apartment on my salary." I was taken aback and asked, "How come? From what I know, you don't have any significant debts. You've got a decent job as an account manager, making less than $75K a year. Plus, no car payments, and you mentioned a college baseball scholarship. So, why can't you afford an apartment?" He spent about 5 minutes explaining, "Well, there are other bills and eating out every day is adding up." I probed further. "You eat out every day? What about cooking?" He replied, "I rely on the cafeteria at work for breakfast and lunch, and I order dinner every night. It's just easier." But his answers started getting vague, and I even asked if he had a pile of credit card debt or something. It just didn't add up. Finally, though, he came clean and admitted, "I lied." He confessed to receiving only a partial baseball scholarship and having what he called an embarrassing amount of student loans. He went to an expensive private college, so I could only imagine the debt he carried. I was pretty shocked, but things began to make sense. He explained, "I can't afford a higher rent payment than what I'm currently paying." I asked him about the numbers and if he was currently keeping up with payments. He replied, "Sort of." He mentioned maxing out his federal loans and having a bunch of private ones. He was paying off the private loans, but not the federal ones. He said, "Everything is crashing down on me as the payment pause on my loans ends in October, and my friend wants me out of the townhouse." I told him it was a lot to digest, but emphasized that it wouldn't change my stance on him moving in. He nodded understandingly, but then suggested, "Can we have a face-to-face dinner tonight to discuss everything in our relationship? I don't want to lose you over this, but I'm hurt that you're not ready for the next step." I agreed to the dinner and told him we'd talk later, then hung up. As for the dinner itself, it was a pivotal moment in our relationship. We met at the restaurant, exchanged polite greetings, and chose a quiet corner booth. The dimly lit ambiance added to the sense of anticipation and unease that hung in the air. As we perused the menu, the tension was palpable. Finally, my boyfriend took a deep breath and began, "I appreciate you agreeing to meet me tonight. I know I messed up by springing the whole moving in thing on you." He paused, his gaze fixed on the tablecloth. I nodded, acknowledging his words. "It was a lot to take in," I admitted, my voice gentle but firm. "I just need to understand where you're coming from and what your intentions are." He nodded in agreement, and our conversation slowly evolved into a candid discussion about his financial situation. He explained the full extent of his student loans, the looming repayment deadline, and the pressure from his friend to vacate the townhouse. With each revelation, I could see the sincerity in his eyes and hear the genuine concern in his voice. He admitted that he'd initially thought moving in with me would solve his financial struggles, but he now realized the importance of a genuine, committed partnership. As the evening wore on, we both recognized that our relationship had reached a crossroads. It was a defining moment where we needed to decide whether we were willing to work through these challenges together, genuinely investing in our future, or whether it was time to part ways. Leaving the restaurant, I felt a weight lifted from my shoulders. While the uncertainties of our future remained, we had taken a step toward understanding each other better, and I knew that our relationship was stronger for it. However, what happened next would lead me to make a difficult decision. So, here's the final piece of the story. After everything that had happened, I made the difficult decision to break up with my boyfriend. To put it bluntly, it all boiled down to a simple fact. He didn't want to move in to further our relationship, he wanted to move in to save money. He was hoping that I would be the solution to his financial problems, by letting him move in and reducing his bills and rent so he could pay off his debts. Honestly, the whole situation left me feeling incredibly uncomfortable. It made me question why he was even with me in the first place. It became clear to me that it was over. Surprisingly, our breakup went relatively smoothly. There was no fighting or him trying to convince me to change my mind. We simply parted ways, and we didn't block each other on social media. However, it was tough to see him post about being in a new relationship and moving in together with someone else. I didn't want anything to do with those reminders, so I ended up blocking him on all social platforms for my peace of mind. I'm not quite ready to dive back into the dating world just yet. Right now, I'm focusing on spending time with my friends and family and hoping to enjoy the upcoming fall weather. And that's the end of this chapter in my life. Bullet dodged indeed. It's clear that his motives were solely focused on finding a solution to his financial problems, rather than building a genuine and committed partnership. It's fortunate that you were able to see through his intentions and make the difficult decision to break up. It's always important to prioritize your own well-being and not be taken advantage of. Wishing you all the best in your journey ahead, free from the burden of someone who would freeload at your expense. Stay strong. I never expected my dream engagement to unravel in such a heart-wrenching way. It started innocently enough, a vacation with my fiance and his close friend. But as I witnessed their undeniable connection unfold before my eyes, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling that something was amiss. Little did I know, the truth I would uncover would shatter my world. Here's how it all went down. We'd been dating since right before the pandemic, so when my fiancé Jack told me we were going on a vacation to see his friend Rebecca, I thought nothing of it. It was, after all, our first real break in ages. On the plane, Jack rambled on about all their college escapades. "Rebecca is a riot," he laughed, reminiscing. "You'll love her." When we finally met her, it was clear they had a strong bond. "This is Rebecca," Jack introduced, and she smiled. "The one I told you so much about." Rebecca was nice, a bit older than me, early 30s maybe. It didn't matter. What mattered was how much Jack was enjoying himself with her, laughing at jokes I didn't understand and sharing memories I wasn't a part of. One morning over breakfast, I tried engaging in their conversation. "So, how did you two meet again?" Rebecca chuckled. "Oh, the good old college days. You should have seen your fiancé back then." But the real blow came on our last day. As we were leaving, they hugged. "I love you," Jack whispered. She smiled, eyes soft. "Love you too." I was frozen, heart racing, thoughts a mess. He's never said that to any of his friends, not in front of me. The flight back was a blur. I stared out the window, memories of their interactions swirling in my mind. Was there something I missed? Jack, sensing my unease, finally broke the silence. "Hey, you've been quiet. Everything okay?" I hesitated, but then, "How could you say I love you to another woman right in front of me?" His face was a mask of confusion and defense. "It's not what you think. Rebecca and our love is different, not romantic." "But you've never said that to your other friends," I countered, feeling a rising tightness in my chest. Jack took a deep breath. Look, I did have feelings for her, but that was long before we even met. She never reciprocated, so I moved on. She's one of my closest friends, that's all. That hit me like a ton of bricks. But what hurt more was the next revelation. I can't just remove her from the wedding, he said, looking pained. I've asked her to be one of my groomsmen. You what? I blurted out, my mind racing. Why didn't you tell me? His voice raised a bit, matching my own. I didn't think it'd be an issue. I thought you trusted me. In my heightened emotional state, I shot back, if you love her so much, why not marry her instead? And with that, I stormed out. I found solace at my mom's place. My phone buzzed continuously, filled with texts and calls from Jack, but I didn't answer any. My friends chimed in with their opinions, some thinking I was overreacting. I began to doubt myself. A few days later, I sat on the edge of my bed, rereading my jumbled thoughts I'd scribbled down. The weight of my actions bore down on me, pushing me into a clarity I hadn't felt since the outburst. I turned to my reflection in the mirror, speaking to myself. It's not Jack, is it? It's you. The bitter memories of being cheated on resurfaced. The scars and insecurities laid bare before me. You're punishing him for someone else's mistakes, I whispered, tears forming. With my head hung low and my pride checked, I finally summoned the courage to reply to Jack's messages. We ended up talking on the phone. I'm really sorry, Jack, I began, my voice shaky. I think I need therapy for my insecurities, trust issues, everything. He sounded tired, defeated almost. It's a good idea, he sighed. But what you said ... it really hurt. I continued, trying to express every emotion. The trip, I felt sidelined, you know? I felt like I was just tagging along, and it made my feelings about Rebecca even more intense. His voice grew distant. I need some time to think about everything. In a desperate bid to right the ship, I messaged Rebecca. Hey, I'm truly sorry for my behavior. I was wrong to feel threatened by your history with Jack. She replied, baffled. She told me she never felt anything romantic towards anyone and had always seen Jack as a brother. Confusion washed over me. My thoughts jumbled. I took a walk, leaving my phone behind. The cold air bit at my cheeks, but my mind was elsewhere. When I returned, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls, texts, all from Jack. He sounded frustrated when I called him back. Why would you tell her all that? He snapped. I thought it was the right thing to do, I tried to reason. He paused, then said, the truth, ... it quote, not simple. I felt a wave of dread. What is the truth, Jack? Another pause. I love you, he whispered. But part of me never moved on from Rebecca. Tears welled up. The weight of it all pressed down on me, crushing me. That's a lot to take in, I said. I need some rest. The finality of my decision echoed in the quiet moments that followed. The engagement ring, once a symbol of hope and love, sat abandoned on the table between us. Jack's eyes looked down, filled with regret. I'm so sorry, he whispered, but apologies couldn't mend the trust he'd broken. I couldn't help but wonder how many more lies lay between us, hidden behind sweet words and promises. I need to heal, I told him, gently but firmly, on my own. To his credit, Jack didn't argue. He seemed to understand the gravity of what he'd done and the irreparable damage it caused. Moving back in with my mom felt like a retreat at first, but as the days turned to weeks, I found solace in the walls of my childhood home. She welcomed me with open arms, allowing me the time and space to rebuild. One evening, as I sat in the cozy embrace of my old bedroom, I realized therapy wasn't just about Jack. It was about me, unpacking the baggage from my past, understanding my reactions, and learning how not to let my history cloud my future. If I didn't confront these issues, I'd forever be a prisoner to them. Jack's deception still stung, but anger and hatred never took root in my heart. Love's tapestry is intricate and messy, and he was but one thread in it. He had his journey to embark on, and I wished him clarity. However, amidst the storm, a silver lining emerged. My bond with my mom deepened, our conversations flowing into the late hours of the night, and my friends, with their unwavering support, introduced me to new passions. One in particular stood out: creative writing. Words became my escape, a canvas to paint my emotions. Always trust your gut. In this situation, her instincts were spot on, but she hesitated to confront the truth. Thankfully, she reached out to the friend and discovered the reality. It's scary to think she could have married him without knowing the truth. A breakup is painful, but easier than a divorce. It takes strength to end a deceptive relationship and find happiness and authenticity in the future. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now or you're definitely the jerk.